Hi there. Well, today I'm going to do a quick run through of a small natural edge bowl turned from some relatively green beech. This has been done mainly for a demo workshop for Berkshire Woodturners beginners group. So it's natural edge, so I've got to turn a tenon on this side. These have just been cut roughly round on the bandsaw. So first off, mark out a centre point, because I don't think there's one in there from the bandsaw. Okay, that's the centre point. Mark it up. So I want to mount this between centres. First thing I got to do is hold it approximately where I want it. So what I want to do now is try and position it so that the top part here, which will be the wings at the top, because it will be turned so that's scalloped out, but the wings here are right angles to the bedway. So I need a little bit of adjustment, just nipping it up a little at a time, just to see if I can adjust it a little bit before I bed it into the spur drive. Best way to check whether it's actually centered up is to look at the gap between your tool rest and the leading edge, and I've got a bit of a gap there, so I need to try and bring that over. It requires a bit of fiddling. It might actually mean that I need to recenter it on this side. Key point is trying to get it to be in the middle, and so that the wings are at right angles. So that's about equal. Yeah, that's about it. So I had to adjust it a little on the tailstock, on the headstock side. It's all going to be turned anyway, so everything will be parallel to everything else once it's actually turned. So that's roughly equal. This is not going to be completely square, just means there's a bit of a dip on one side. Can I adjust that anymore? How's that look? That's a wee bit better. Right, we'll go for broke. Call that a day. Wind it up. And I've done it this way as I want to turn a tenon with my 3/8 bowl gouge. So this is the size of the record power chuck jaws, which is, I don't know, 50mm. Make sure it's tight and locked up. Turn the speed down. Make sure it's clear. And then start turning the back side out. Make sure the bevel's rubbing. Handle low. Watch out because you're cutting fresh air. You can see the bottom's a bit wobbly because I'll reset it. I'm running at about, it's only a small blank, 5 inches in diameter, so just turn it up to 1300. as you get the corner off, adjust the tool rest so it's closer. You've got to turn it down so that the wings are cut right up to the edge. So look at the ghost at the top to make sure you know where you are. Getting there about another 1/4 inch or so. I'll measure the tenon off in a minute. Keep checking as you get closer to the edge. You see, yeah, it's not quite even. That's got a fatter width of uncut to there. Now if it was totally even, they'd both be touching the wings at the same time. So that means that as I continue to cut, one wing will slip below the other. That's the crown drive doing its job, as it's relaxed a bit. Please yourself as to what shape you want the bowl to be. Just got a parting tool here, or 1/8 inch parting tool, just going to trim the bottom off. Get it square. Then I'm going to do a plunge cut to cut the tenon. These old, very old feeler gauges or whatever they're called, they're very blunt, deliberately got nice blunt tips. Wish you could buy them, but you can't. Got an old boy who's giving up wood turning. Now that'll do for the tenon. So I know where I'm aiming. Just another couple of sweeping cuts around. Small flat at the bottom for the jaws to sit against. Got a bit of a fluff on there. Turn that off. Have a look. So we're okay at that end. We're okay at that end. Yeah, still a tiny bit of glue on that, so just one more passing cut, turn it off, move it a bit closer. Right. So that's quite smooth. That will just sand, I think, at that point. So I'm not going to bother to sand it because that's not the purpose of the this training session. I've got a very small tenon here. I think I just need to make that a little tiny bit deeper. Nice square edge for the chuck drawers. Okay, off it comes. Now to put in the chuck drawers. If you haven't got a crown drive, you can use a regular drive. There's all sorts of different versions. I like the crown drive because if you make a mistake it just spins. Shove that in. You have to decide whether you want the tenon to be left on or whether you want to return it, rechuck it and turn it out. That's entirely up to you. If you turn it so it's a good accurate fit, you can sometimes get away without doing much in the way of finishing on it. So let's just do that. Right, so I'm going to turn out the inside of the bowl. You've got to make sure that as you turn that the face of the bevel as you come down is parallel to the shape of the bowl that you're going to create. Shape of the bowl you're going to create. But you can hog out the middle before you have to worry about that. Tool rest is a bit too high, lower it a bit. Make sure I can come in at centre. So just going to take out a bit of the waste. So I'm just coming over a bit to start moving the bevel of the front face so it's getting closer to parallel. At this point it's not a bad idea to take the elbow bodger out, which is at this end on the tailstock, because it's very easy to take your elbow out. If you've got a small lathe you can take the tailstock right off. You can also of course move the headstock around at an angle if you want to, but not everybody has got a movable headstock. Normal bowl movement. Probably need to lower the tool rest a tiny bit. Turn the lathe off, lower it a little bit, make sure I can get that nice sweeping movement. Keep the handle low, engage a little bit, don't take too much. So at this point I'm just going to clear some of the waste away so I can see the shape. Just taking little cuts, little push cuts on that front corner of the tool. I'm just going to change the view, make it a bit easier to see. So at this point it's really important that you've got the tool right the way over on your right hand, and you, where are we, top and rear, that's it, so that your hand's right over here, otherwise you can't get this angle to match. So now at this point you need to do the cuts towards the edge so that you don't have to go back. This will be about 5mm thick so it doesn't fall apart on me. As you come round, you just want to take bits of that waste out, leaving as much wood as you want to in the centre to give you a supportive cut, but you've still got to take bits out. You could, if you want, drill a depth hole to make sure you know where you're going. Okay.
This is the trickiest part because you've got to get rid of the waste, but you've got to be mindful of that bevel and every now and again you're going to hit fresh air. So as you come around here and you get the bevel out here, you're on unsupported wood because you're in fresh air at that point. So you have to watch it, because as it goes from supported to unsupported, bonk, that's when you get a catch. That's why it's important that the bevel rubs on that all the way through and you hold it nice and steady. As you come and you want to take out that waste, you can fairly easily do a push cut, which actually will take the cut from the tip to the bottom edge, and that can just drag some of that material off. So supported cut, handle low, and then as I come around the corner, I'm just doing a little nibble so I can get to the point where there's some waste. As you come round, there's no reason why you don't put the tool rest further in, because it's all about keeping support on that tool. So I want to go a bit deeper because I want this profile to be fairly even in thickness. It's not always possible to get it exactly even in thickness, but it's nice to try and give it a go. Now at this point you are reaching close to the limit of what you can do without it going into scraper mode. It's got to be quite delicate and careful. You can resort to using a scraper fairly early on. You're probably going to need one anyway, but some people will want to use a carbide. No reason why you don't. Carbides are fine if you're underconfident. And I'm going to be using a scraper in a minute anyway, because there's a limit as to what you can do, because at some point that bevel, as it's a fairly short but deep bowl, that bevel is going to not be supported and it's going to get a bit iffy. So I'm just going to remove some more of that waste. We're now in the heart of the bowl, so as I'm turning here I'm actually beyond the wing. So let's have a look, see where we are. They're still just slightly thicker at that point. This is where finessing it can suddenly get complicated because you suddenly have a catch. So there's no reason why you don't resort to actually using a scraper just to finish off that edge. If you've got a nice sharp scraper with a negative rate, I'll just do that there now just to see how that works. You don't want to use it on the sides, but you can use it in the body of the bowl. If you use it on the sides you'll get chatter. Just going into that unsupported edge just to thin it down a little tiny bit. Still a little bit thicker, but with the bowls now forming quite nicely, I don't really want to go back to the sides except when I'm sanding, although there's no reason why you don't do a very light cut. As long as it's fast enough you can get away with it. Now I should have sharpened this before I started, which I didn't, my bad. Just get a bit more light on that so you can see what I'm doing. Now I can't possibly get round that corner with my bowl gouge. So a scraper or a carbide is absolutely what you want. Well, it's what I want. I'm sure there are cleverer people than me that can do it better. So, yeah, there's a slight belly just there. So I could do with just getting the scraper to run down that. Not a very big scrape with this, it's a 3/4 inch one with a DIY round nose, like French curve, negative rake on it. We're there. Just do a little bit more out the bottom, it's still a bit thicker as it comes around that corner. The negative rake means you can hold the tool horizontal without having to worry too much about it being downhill. Now I've got reasonable thickness down to the bottom. Bottom feels about right. Got a very slight dimple at the bottom, so I'm just going to use, not dimple, slight boss, because I'm cutting with a round nose. So I'm just going to tuck that in, make sure it doesn't touch. I'm just using a skew as a flat scraper. In this case I've got to do handle up. Just flatten the bottom off a tiny bit. That'll do. And there we have it. So now it's a question of how you want to finish off the bottom. At this point, you can shove it on the belt sander if that's what you really want and just sand off the bottom, or you can put it into a jam chuck and reverse it. So I've got a jam chuck here that is a turn to a round dome edge, and it's got a bit of old wetsuit material on. That's about the right size. Looks as if you'd done one of these before. Just going to get a piece of paper and put that over there. Right, bit of paper. Shove that in there. Shove that on there. I just help in case it spins that you don't get melted neoprene or router mat or whatever you have chosen to use. Put that in. I've chosen to put a tailstock drive on that's got a shielded tip because the wood is relatively soft and I don't want it to actually punch right through to the bottom. So set the tool rest so that it's clear and doesn't mess up my nice screw threads and my nice expensive Axminster tailstock drive. Then grab a suitable 3/8 spindle gouge if I can find one. There it is. Sorry, I was out yesterday. So I just want to now trim this back. This should sit fairly even. Before I get anywhere, let's just turn it down, turn the speed up. That's a bit wobbly. Not a complete surprise given the amount of times I have to try and find the centre. That's a bit better. Bit of manual adjustment. There we are. I'll go to the top camera. So this is just now. I'm going to leave a little nub where the drive point is. A little undercut to make sure that as it dries that it's still moderately damp, that you don't get a concave bottom. So that's the foot taken off. Now add a little bit of decoration if that's what you wish. Why not? Excuse my arm. Got a point tool here. Just going to shove that in. 1, 2, 3 lines. Bit fuzzy that one. Just take a bit off with a bit of paper. I'm not sanding this at this stage. At least that way people can see what it's like off the tool. There we have. Right, and I just want to go in a little bit more, reduce that nub down to a fine bit, and then that will come off on the belt sander or with a chisel. You've got to be careful because as the wood is quite green, that nub can shatter. So don't make the nub too small in your enthusiasm to prove that you're a most fantastic wood turner. I think that's a bit too thick for me to just peel off with my scoochers without the danger of me sticking my hand. Let's just see. Yeah, a bit too thick. So that will just come off on the belt sander, and there we have it. One little natural edge bowl. Alright, just to prove it's done, I've just briefly sanded that off with the belt sander, and it sits quite well. Nice little concave bottom, and there we have it. Yeah. No sanding. There is a very slight lip, very slight change of thickness just there. Actually the inside and the outside match each other, so I've done a very slight OG shape. Not sure I like it particularly, but there you go, it's good enough. Although I didn't finish that one off, this is a previous one that I've done, just showing me oiling it after I've sanded it and finished it off. So there we have it.